Hello everyone, today I'm going to be playing Mono Blue Tron. So, premise of the deck's pretty easy. It's a control deck. You just play all your Tron pieces until you can power out like a Mindslaver lock with Academy Ruins, or hit them with one of these giant creatures up here. And to that end, we have all these cards right here that delay, no pun intended, our opponent, such as just remands that each of these cards have some auxiliary function of digging to the each individual land piece, because unlike Cloud Post, you can't just play a bunch of posts. You need 3 specific lands. You need a mine, a plant, and a tower before you can make 7 mana rather easily. And once you hit those 3, the game's fairly simple from there. But Remand and Condescend and Repeal all draw a card or scry, so you can dig to more draw spells, win condition, or more lands. And this is the main engine of the deck, other than the obviously the lands. The non-basics down here, I have some Teleria Wests to fetch transmute for any of these Urzatron pieces or an Academy Ruins to help facilitate a Mindslaver lock, where you just take all their turns. And we have 8 islands, an Izzet Signet to add more colored mana sources, because optimally you want to go turns 1, 2, and 3, all 3 different Urzatron pieces. And if you can go turn 2 Izzet Signet, you have at least a blue source, so you can stop them if they wanna. If you don't actually have any of these things. And Crucible World is down here. Even though it doesn't produce mana, it'll help with gifts and given piles. Like you can get a pile of Crucible, Academy Ruins, Teleria West, and a Buried Ruin, and you're gonna get however many lands you need. Speaking of gifts ungiven, it's one of the best cards in the deck. I played this deck in Overextended, in Gavin Verhey's Overextended tournaments, when Invasion was legal, and I had a 2/2 Fact of Fiction and Gifts Ungiven split. And Gifts Ungiven, Fact of Fiction is just a very efficient draw spell, but Gifts Ungiven actually wins you the game. Like as soon as you cast it, you should be able to get all the pieces you need, and then just take over the game. The other card draw is Jace Beleren for the Control Mirror. It's actually picking up control decks, are picking up a little now that all the combo decks are starting to scale back a bit. There's someone who's talking to me. I'll get to him later. And so Jace is there, so you can draw some additional cards by while they're holding up counters. Like if they tap out for an Esper Charm or whatever. Well, that's a stupid example because it's instant, but let's say they tap out and you throw it on a Jace. Now you have a source of uncounterable card advantage they have to deal with. And a lot of people are just playing Drago with like a lot of 1-for-1 counter spells, and it doesn't really work. The draw spells, Thirst for Knowledge is very good in this deck because you're obviously playing a lot of artifacts, signets, and all the win conditions, which you can just buy back with Academy Ruins. And Think Twice is much of a placeholder. I didn't play it originally, but I needed to cut Fire and Ice because it's not legal in Modern. And Think Twice just fills the role of, it lets me do something after I leave open Remand and they just pass turn 2 back to me. I can think twice and draw a card, whereas otherwise I would just not do anything. And I'm trying it out. I'm not sure how it is yet. If I can find better options, which I'm open to, I'll try them out. And the Mindslaver is the easiest way to win, I find. But if you can't do that, you have these 2 life gain guys for aggro decks, and even though Wormcoil Engine's better than Batterskull in this kind of deck, because Batterskull can get lightning bolted and then Grim Lavamancer down, where Wormcoil Engine would survive. They have to have different names for Gifts Ungiven, so if you need to, you can search for both of them, though it doesn't come up very often. And if you can't beat them with the life gain or the Mindslavers, you got Sundering Titan, Battlesphere, and Karn. Battlesphere is very good against just any aggro deck, and it's serviceable against control. Like it's a mere Battlesphere, you're gonna get them with it. Karn and Sundering Titan are more for control decks. the main deck's geared towards control because you have a lot of all your cards replace themselves basically, and so aggro they're not as worried about their individual cards, and so Karn and Sundering Titan are much better against control than aggro because aggro won't have many land types. Like you can get Zoo with this, but Battlesphere or the life gain guys are just better because you gain life. And Karn is very good, like if you hit the nut draw of all 3 Tron pieces. But otherwise against aggro he just does too little to impact the board. Like he can Vindicate in a Wild Nacatl and then die to the second one. So that's the deck. The sideboard down here is a work in progress. It's mainly unchanged from what I had been playing in Overextended. I have another Batter Skull for aggro decks, some Steel Sabotages for Affinity, which I think should probably be Hercule's Recalls. I just don't have any at the moment. And you can also use Steel Sabotage to counter like Birthing Pod and such. Whereas you'll never bring in Hercule's Recall against Birthing Pod, but I don't mind bringing in Steel Sabotage for it. Because Birthing Pod's a giant portion of their deck that it's very hard to beat once they get it going. Threads of Disloyalty is for aggro decks. I've used it to steal Minia, Tarmogoyf. You can't really play Vidalcan Shackles in this deck. That is better than Threads, because you'll have like 1 or 2 islands in play at most, so you're not going to be stealing much with it. Because you'll be wanting to play all your Urza lands and your Signets as blue sources instead of just islands. Tormod's Crypt for any graveyard decks that are still lingering around. It's also transmutable. I can transmute for it to get like Living End and decks like that. Trinisphere is also again for combo. The Cascade, Living End again. Living End's the main deck because nothing got banned from it. But also Living End's pretty terrible, so it's not a recommendation from me. And Triskellion's also for aggro, but it also helps against like elves if you're able to get it out soon enough, because it can shoot down little creatures. And that's the deck. Since the format on Magic Online hasn't switched over to the ban list, it doesn't take place until the 12th, I think, of October. And so what I'm going to do is just play a bunch of tournament practice again, and we'll see how it goes.